What's up, guys? You are listening to The Lifestyle Hub, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes and into the lives of inspiring individuals to not only educate, but unlock your true potential to live a healthy, active, and fulfilling life. I'm your host, Jason Grimmer. Now let's get this show on the road. Alrighty, guys, welcome to this week's episode of the Lifestyle Hub podcast, and I'm very excited to introduce the one and only Karin Drane, twin mum, founder of Curveball Events and Talents, specializing in long-term management of talents and event organizing for corporates. They represent some of the biggest radio profiles in the region, including Kris Fade, Priti Malik, and Brent, as well as co-founder of Canvas, the label that offers a timeless collection of customizable suits for women. Karin, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
How are you?
I'm fantastic.
We're not going to act like we're strangers because I've known you now for the last 5 months, haven't I?
Yeah.
In what capacity?
You train me.
Yes. So I train Karin in the gym.
The suffering
that begins. We're just going to break the ice with that because today's podcast is definitely going to be an inspiring one. I remember asking you on today because obviously throughout the last 5 months, we've done a lot of training together and there's been a lot of conversations that I was like, yeah, you've got so many little inspiring journeys and stories, and I'm really excited that you've agreed to come on today. Thank you.
My pleasure.
If somebody was to ask you what you did for a living, how would you answer that?
It's a tricky one. I think I build wealth for others and make money for myself in the process.
Okay. And how long have you been doing that for?
Just about 9 years now, a little bit more. Okay. And then before that, I was in the events industry, but not doing what I do now.
Okay. So just to paint the picture, tell us a little bit about where you're from and a bit about your background.
Okay. I'm from Sweden. Came here 2007, was bored in law school in Sweden. Thought that that's not what I want to do. Wanted to do something like totally different. Hotel management seemed like the right thing at the time. Moved here, started that, and then, Dubai is Dubai. So I started part-time working. That's how I got into events. Like I started literally grassroots. I was handing out cans of soda. Like that was my intro to the event industry. And then through networking, it grew. And eventually I was like, I should probably try and make some money instead of studying. So I took a break, and that break lasted until now. Now I have an event company and talent management.
Okay, why Dubai? How did you end up here, though? What set your sights on this part of the world?
It was total coincidence. At the time, this was 2007. So I wanted to move somewhere else. And my boyfriend at the time, he was a stock analyst. And he told me, you cannot go US, you cannot stay in Europe. So you have to go Asia or Middle East. And I had not been to Middle East at all. So he recommended Dubai. I went here, checked it out, and I fell in love with the place.
Okay, and you've been here ever since?
Yeah.
Personal life.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that briefly. We're going to touch on it more later, but obviously you're the mum of 2 lovely twins.
It's my life, yeah.
They keep you busy, I can imagine?
Yes, they do. That's why I was late today, because there was a tantrum that needed to be handled before I could continue with the rest of my life, yes.
We're going to talk a little bit about how you've managed to obviously run a very successful business and obviously, be a very supportive mother to your 2 daughters, because I think that's something that a lot of people might struggle to juggle or feel like they can't juggle.
Yeah, I think we all do. Like everyone that's trying to mom and work at the same time, we all struggle. So
when you were growing up and, before you came out here, what would you say that your initial personal life ambitions looked like? Did you see yourself in this position, or did this obviously you'd mentioned you'd not studied for this directly, but did you see yourself in this position?
I would have never imagined I would be in entertainment. I don't think so. But I've always been really happy-go-lucky, open-minded. I'm happy to try anything. I think sales was expected for me to be in, some kind of outgoing and like human-centric profession, absolutely. Okay. But no, this was not planned. Okay,
and so tell us a little bit of how it actually began, as far as your career in talent management, and what led you to pursue that and then obviously decide, hey, I'm going to start my own company.
Yeah, so the very first time I was actually still working as a promoter, and one of the clients of the agency asked me like, hey, why don't you set up your own agency? But then I was still studying, and I got so nervous about the question because it seemed so daunting. Like I had no clue where to start, how much it would cost, and I ended up saying no. So that became a regret. like a big one. I felt like I had missed out on an opportunity. And the next time the same kind of opportunity came around, which was through, networking, like at a dinner, I met someone who knows someone and so on and so forth, randomly run into the same person in the mall. And he's like, hey, aren't you in events? I wasn't in events, you know what I mean? I was working at events, but I wasn't in events management. But he had an events management license in his holding group. And he's like, why don't you reactivate it and run it? And I was like, yes, I will, but I have to have a team with me. I cannot build it from scratch. And I essentially asked my agent, and I was like, yo, you want to work for me? And she's like, sorry, what? What did you say? Like, you work for me, rather? Yeah. And I was like, no, come with me, join the party, She ended up jumping off of her full-time job to come and join me, working for this holding company. And I think we did like 9 months with them, maybe 8 or 9 months. And it was full speed, She had amazing clients. I learned so much, but it was like I was going from picking whatever jobs I wanted, whether it was in an exhibition or whether it was a fashion show for bridal or something, to like now being on the other side. And I remember like the first time like we did like a petrol station promo. And it was an amazing client, huge brand. And they go like, yeah, here's your T-shirt. I'm like, for what? She's like, yeah, but we have to wear the branded T-shirt, like now that we're supervising. And I'm like, oh, I can't. And I don't know, like it was just such a barrier for me. And I know this sounds silly, but I literally, I realized I had to check my ego, because I put the shirt on, I put the cap on, and I got a clipboard and just like clung on to my clipboard to just feel like I was separated from the activation. And then I was like, wait a minute, what am I doing? I'm making money out of this. Like, I need to respect this. Yeah. And I think that's when I really transitioned over from working in events to actual, like the behind the scenes and organizing and everything. And then it just grew and grew, like we left them and I ended up working for a bigger event company for a while, learned so much, but was too overloaded with clients and way out of my scope as well. Like, I mean, I don't drive, but they put like Nissan on me. So I had no idea, and like Cadillac and huge events. And I was good at it, but I just felt like I was troubling water, Yeah. So I took a break, and then how Curveball came about was that I had a client call me like, yo, where have you gone? Like, we need a proper event company. I was like, there's 50 million of them, like take a pick. And they're like, no, but please, we need you to handle this. I said, no, I'm retired. Like I'm in petrochemicals now, And they kept on coming back. And eventually I just said like, yo, what do you have coming up for the coming year? If you promise that I get to bid on it, you don't have to say I get it, but if you promise I bid on it, if it's worth my time, I'll set up a license and I'll handle you. And they're like, you'll start a company for us? I'm like, yeah. So that's how I set up Curveball. And that's how on my spare time, I was head of marketing for a petrochemicals company. Yeah. And I did
So it was
evenings,
a side hustle at that point.
Dude, it was like no sleep hustle. Like after I finished work, I did Curveball. Weekends, I did Curveball. It was like crazy. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, when I first met you, I knew that about you. And I know that's something that you're obviously very... You don't muck around with like making the most of your time, do you?
No, I'm old school. I think you should work hard. And I haven't met anyone who got anywhere without working hard. So you have to.
Karen's basically like the Ari Gold of Entourage, if anyone knows that reference.
That's how I wish. I wish I was Ari Gold.
That's how you are. That's how I see you. If that's an Entourage reference, you should, if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Entourage, you should.
You should get a grip and go and watch that, because it's great. But literally you are like, you don't muck around. The transition between that first, like before, just that story you explained there, what was the time frame?
Of what?
How many years when that was just like a side hustle, or like, how long did it take for you to actually build this?
Well, I mean, it was pretty quick. I don't know what happened, but it escalated really quickly. I met Kris maybe 6 months into having my own company or something like that. I booked him for an event. Okay. We got along so well. And then he asked me, oh, you want to manage me? And I said straight up, I have no idea how to manage you. I don't know what to do. Because I do events. Like, this is my field. But I think we had a lot of common traits. Like, he works super hard. Like, even to this day, he's the hardest worker in the room, in any room. And, obviously mine are transferable skills like client retention and sales, upselling, like you can apply that to any field. So it was just a matter of me learning his services and what he offered. So I started that, but then, I got pregnant with twins shortly after that. And I had a full-time job. I had Kris, and
Did that
then
make you doubt anything as far as
I thought
what
I
you
was
could
going to lose
manage?
everything. Yeah. And I recorded a TV show at that time, like once a week I was recording a music show. So I went from having like a full-time, part-time music and having Kris to like a twin pregnancy. And I'm like, I'm going to lose everything now.
Because a lot of women, I think, just having spoken to and clients obviously feel like that once pregnancy hits, that's potentially a chunk out of their lives where they are no longer to potentially be able to pursue more of, I would say, a selfish passion or their careers perhaps.
Yeah.
And they have to devote themselves to something else. Did you feel that, or did you say, I can manage both?
I mean, I tried. I was supposed to be on bed rest, but I would like sneak away for one meeting per day.
Yeah.
But I think if I would go back, I would probably make a lot more plans beforehand to have more team that could take over things that I couldn't, just to take pressure off myself, because there's enough pressure as it is when you're pregnant.
Of course.
But even so, like, I think it's such a life event that you can never prepare for it. And I don't think there is a right time for ever having kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just need to logistically manage a lot better. I don't think I managed the best way possible. And I think, my ex-husband almost lost it when I was going in for delivery, and I just messaged him like, hey, can you bring my laptop? And he's like, are you insane? I'm like, yeah, but I have obligations. I have responsibilities. Like, I still have to do it. He's like, we're having babies.
Yeah.
And I realized in hindsight that like, okay, that was perhaps a bit much.
Yeah.
But then I've met people that do it too, and they sleep at some point. So it doesn't hurt if I send away an email then,
Yeah. No.
So,
do you think that forced your hand to build a team that we're going to address on shortly? But did you think it forced your hand to build that team quicker, or to feel like you needed to have those people in place?
100%. I should have had people in place, and I should have overstaffed to prepare for it. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
But I still had a really good team.
Was that because you struggled to let other people...
Absolutely.
This is the thing I think a lot of business owners face. And, I know I'll probably face this challenge sometime in the very near future. And I know a lot of people I know face this, but it's like for you to try and give up that, I guess, that responsibility over to other people. Was that a challenge for you?
It's trust issues.
Yeah.
Really. And I think, again, it takes a while, maybe because in the beginning you're so hands-on, you do everything. I did invoices, I did quotations, I did payment collections, I do the presentations, I do the reports, I do the talking with the promoters, the girls, everything. So to relinquish that responsibility, of course, I'm not the best one at doing presentations. Like, that's wild. Of course I'm not.
Yeah.
So of course, there's plenty of people that I could hire that are better at that.
Yeah.
But getting to that point, trusting someone else, I think a lot of people struggle with that. I absolutely struggled with it. Absolutely.
Identifying talent. Okay. Obviously, I mean, I would say, when you first met Kris, did you ever expect him to become the superstar that he is and continuing to become today? Did you see that coming? Can anyone see that coming from a talent?
He was already larger than life. He just has a way of connecting with people. There's magic around him, and I think you either have it or you don't. I'm not sure if I'm the one who can identify that, but with him, I definitely felt it the same way I feel it with Priti Malik, they just have it. Or Brent, when he walks into a room, like, they're just on another level. But I think what sets anyone apart is also, the saying, like, hard work beats talent, unless talent works hard. They're talent and they work hard.
Yeah, it's a good combo.
Yeah, you can't beat it. You can't.
There's a lot of talent in this city, though, that's not really prepared to work hard, is there? Maybe. I'm sure you deal with those people.
Possibly.
Do they reach out to you at times?
I do have a lot of people reach out to me, but we're boutique, right? So we don't aim to secure a lot of talents. It's very rare that I would take on more talents, and they would not have to compete with each other. So they need to be within different fields, different rates and so on. So it's not something I deal with quite often, but of course we have taken on board a few more.
I'm curious to know like an example of potentially a particularly challenging client or situation that you've encountered in your career, and how have you navigated that? Because it's not easy dealing with talent.
Oh, with the talent themselves?
Yeah, with the talent. I want like the juicy stuff.
No. Never happening. Listen, I think when you work with high performing individuals, I think you will have no problems if you hustle as hard. But I think, for instance, if I were to bring in someone to the team that cuts corners, that doesn't want to wake up early, that wants to switch off their phone at 6 p.m., you're not going to like working with my talents. And you're definitely not going to like working with me.
Yeah.
So it's not about someone being difficult. Absolutely not. It's just different expectations, and of course, like if you were to put me with an Olympic swimmer and ask me to coach them, he'd slice me to pieces,
Yeah.
Because I don't have the expertise required. I don't know what they need. Like he would be so frustrated with me and I would probably hate that person. And it's the same. Like you need to grow in stages with people. You have to have a huge will to learn, a lot of humility, I think.
Yeah.
But I think I'm very fortunate to work with. I wish I could give you some like, oh my God, they lost it and they went drama. But no, I don't have that. I work with people that are like super professional.
Yeah.
So, no.
They're on point. The role that you play in the development and execution of clients' careers, like what do you personally, because I know, from Instagram, etc., you always seem to be in amongst, just outside the picture, but you're always there with a few of your high profile clients.
Yeah.
What role do you have personally when it comes to managing your talent? And because I'd imagine that you were more hands-on with all of your clients initially, right, as the business was building.
Yeah, I am still very, very hands-on. It's just that the bigger you become, the more inquiries you have. It's physically impossible for me to be involved everywhere.
Yeah.
I can't keep track of everything. So eventually you don't need a team member. You need a team to handle each one of them. And I don't know.
I think it can be tricky trying to manage the expectations of clients and then the realities of this, the entertainment and media industry in Dubai, right?
Yeah, but it's like, if I were to describe my role, I don't think really of course, I'm like the custodian of their inquiries, right? But yes. I don't go out and get them work. Do you understand? Yes. So I'm not like an agent that aggressively pursues work and a client comes to me and says, here's my budget. I want 20 influencers. Like, yes. That's not what I do. They come to us either wanting Kris or Priti, et cetera, and then our job is really to upsell as much as we can, to maximize the inquiries, yes. To be lovely to deal with as well, because business is personal, like who wants to work with someone who's not nice, Right. And of course, there are probably some clients that don't like me, but I think the vast majority have a very pleasant experience working with us, both me and the team. But I would say our job is to maximize, because they do all the business development and the work. Like it's their work, their ethics, their performance, their way of entertaining. That's what brings in inquiries, not me. They're always on the social media. They're always right. out there. They stay in touch. Like there's nothing like, oh, you can't talk to client. No, like they talk to clients. They stay in touch with them and they connect like deeply with maybe they don't have the entire marketing team, but there will always be someone that they, and you should see how they can remember faces. Like it's insane, literally insane.
Yeah. I was at an event 2 nights ago and I was with Priti and somebody had come up to her and said, hey, do you remember? Obviously you don't remember, but she showed her a photo and it was this woman that showed her the phone. It was what we later found out was actually her, but she was in a school uniform.
Yeah.
So it was like literally 10 years ago that she'd actually had a selfie with Priti.
Yeah.
And then she'd come up to her and said, hey, obviously Priti wasn't going to remember her exactly, but just the way she handled that encounter to make, that situation feel so much more friendly and less awkward and like genuine. It was like, obviously, it's all part of that.
And with
process.
clients is sometimes literally you'll see either one of them go like, oh yeah, I remember you, we did that event on the beach before the person has even started. And this is major to me. I feel like that's it just shows so much about their character. And that's why I'm saying I'm very privileged to be working with talent like this. They're the best.
What do you see the future of talent management and how do you plan to stay ahead of the curve? That's my pun.
The curveball. Tricky one. I think this industry is obviously here to stay and here to expand. I think it's very fascinating years ahead. I think we've seen a lot of maturing of the market. I think people are settling into how they charge, but I think it's going to be interesting to see the technology effect on content. You know, I had someone the other day is like, do you use ChatGPT to do your caption? And I'm like, sorry, what? Why would we? You know, we're creative. But then I thought to myself, maybe I'm getting old. Why are they using that for the caption?
This whole script's off there.
Is it?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Everything.
Look at you.
Yeah, even though I'm going to AI my face in, I'm not even here.
Do
right?
it.
I'm actually not
you just look
even
there
interviewing. I'm at
as
home right now. This is not even me.
Obviously.
No, but yeah, it's crazy, right? So
Yeah.
the technology side's
And especially
insane.
for video editing and stuff like that, you know, maximizing time, I think you'll be able to get out a lot more content, shortcutting with editing like that.
Yeah.
I think it's, you know, this way of marketing is just so phenomenal, I think. You know, I love the fact that you take objectives of a company, and I'm talking about authentic endorsing, right? I'm not talking about the examples where people are sellouts or something like that, but I'm talking when you work with us or other serious content creators, you know, literally you're bridging the gap. You have an audience that love your content, and then you have a client that with the messaging that they want to bring out. And the content creator is like the bridge in between.
Yeah.
And there's something very satisfying about that. I love the fact that you can bring out a message to an audience in a good way with something that benefits them as well. So I think it's just going to grow and grow and grow.
And obviously Curveball along with it.
Obviously.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
This part of the world, this is the next kind of area that I wanted to obviously dive into with you, is this is a challenging part of the world in the sense that it's evolved, I would say, very rapidly over the last, let's say, 10 years, as far as the influence of women, in particular in like the Arab regions of the world, and in particular Dubai, which is leading the forefront of now, you know, obviously more than equal opportunities for both men and women in the country. And, you know, you started this well before, I mean, you started this, what year was it? That Curveball started to kick off? 2014. So we're approaching nearly the 10-year anniversary, not far. I can imagine that towards the, you know, back in year 1, 2, 3, Dubai would have been very different to it is now. Or in the response of, you know, being a woman in this region, did you face any challenges? How did you have to navigate then that potentially probably wouldn't have been an issue now? Was there anything like that comes to mind?
Yeah, possibly. I think there's a big difference maybe when I was working in the event industry, in sales or execution versus now that I own the company. I like when I was working in sales, I would wear an engagement ring, for instance, just to, you know, not have to go on personal or someone asking me out on a date or something. Not because it happened a lot, but just because I wanted to avoid that whole thing. But I think other than that, to be honest, I've never walked into a room thinking that I'm going to have to fight to be heard. Like I walk in and I get the attention I want. Like I've never thought of myself to like, you know, be suppressed or something like that. Like I'm here, I deserve a seat at the table, and that's that.
Having met your mum not too long ago in the gym, do you think those characteristics in any way were from an upbringing or potentially from the way you grew up, or would you say you developed them on your own later on?
I think my father was very, very outgoing, always, you know, connecting with people and talking, joking around. So I think I got a lot of this from him. My mom, on the other hand, is like ultra professional, like super good at what she does. You know, they were really they took two different routes in life, but they still managed to reach success, both of them. So I think it's definitely a combination. I feel very lucky to have had the childhood that I did.
Siblings, you have a brother, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Did he get the same commanding
He's
aura?
He's amazing. He's probably much better than I am.
Is he? When's he coming over to train?
I don't know.
Surely that's got to be soon. Staying motivated while staying motivated while prioritizing and managing your time, giving the demands. How do you keep focused and pushing when it comes to obviously how busy this can get?
I think everyone has tools for coping. For me, if I feel overwhelmed, I do things that make me feel good. So my mom calls it a happy bucket, and fine, I like that idea. I refill my happy bucket. So if I feel overwhelmed, I have a few go-tos, you know, whether that's something simple, like, you know, putting a face mask at home. I make sure I always have that because it makes me feel relaxed. I don't need to take an hour and a half to go to the spa. I can get my fix there. That's something that calms me.
Yes.
Or, going for a ride or something. Like I have a certain amount of things that will make me feel better.
Yes.
And I use them frequently because I think you need to. And I have a huge support network that I can talk to. I think going through the pandemic was huge, and I had 2 people that every day I spent maybe an hour on the phone with them, just talking through like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? Or, just bouncing ideas back and forth. So a combination of things for myself, like I think educating yourself and self-improvement is important. And as well, I read something, I can't remember who said it, but it was amazing and it shifted a lot of things on how you rewire your brain, because obviously your brain is wired to just keep on thinking if you start thinking about something. So let's say I think about like, okay, I really need this project. And then I start like, oh my gosh, what if I don't get it? What if I don't get it? As soon as you shift that question to what do I do if I don't get it?
Yeah.
Your brain starts thinking about solutions rather than the problem. And I think that has made a huge change for me. I apply it on everything. Personal life, business, everything.
That's something you consciously take a decision to.
If I feel myself going off and I'm like anxious about something, I just take the question and I rephrase this. Okay, what do I do, if that happens? And I start going through what I would do.
Do you think that's, one of the challenges that you face regularly, would you say?
Yeah, I think I have a lot of overwhelmed moments. Yeah. Absolutely. I think everyone does.
What other areas have you struggled with when starting the business?
I think cash flow, taking on too much, figuring out how to solve that, but that was mainly before I had good bank relations, or other ways of solving it. But as soon as I had that in place, I felt very secure in that area. Yeah. But of course, like if I get an opportunity and I don't actually know how to do it, or if something goes wrong during setup, there's a million things that can go wrong in events, like a million things.
Yes.
Yeah.
The biggest accomplishments of your career so far, do you have a few standouts that you would say are up there with like some prized moments?
No, not really like that. But I think I have milestones, like things that you treasure. Like I remember, of course, like, back in the day, I used to run for 2,500 dirhams. If somebody wanted to book 2 promoters, I was there, I was doing the reports and everything. And I remember the first time I invoiced 50,000, I remember the first time I invoiced 100,000. It was a huge moment for me. I'm like, oh, I made it,
Yeah.
I remember the first time I hit 500,000 on one invoice. I remember the first time I hit 1 million, like
you could keep going.
Yes, we have time. No, but I think those kind of things are important to hang on to because they motivate you. And I know it's monetary, but that's why you're in business, like I want to make money to be able to do fun stuff, laugh all day and just,
Yeah.
So absolutely. But then again, I think I'm more wired to be obsessed with the process than anything else. So I usually celebrate for a very short time and then I set my next target.
Back to business.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's it? Team run, don't walk.
Yes.
That's your hashtag on your...
I don't think it's mine. It's somebody else's, but I took it.
Your elevator selfies.
Yes, for sure.
Every day.
Yeah.
You do go... I strongly have to be the other voice in Priti's ear. So obviously Priti Malik, for those listening, as a client of mine, she's obviously been on the podcast. She's episode 2, guys. So take a listen if you want to familiarize yourself. But Priti's my client in the gym. Karen's obviously represents Priti.
Yeah.
And you're obviously team run, don't walk. So you push a very busy, hustling schedule.
Yes.
And I'm on the other side being like, you need more sleep. You need to rest. Relax.
Her sleep is not my problem, Jason.
And
That's for
and I'm
you.
like, all right, I need to talk to Karen. This is getting out of hand. But to be fair, she's actually managing both of us quite well, isn't she?
I'm sure she is.
Yeah. I think so. I definitely think so. I think from obviously I'm following you the last couple of months, and your social media, though you're not really an influencer.
No.
You do take a lot of time to promote, I would say, other successful business women in particular. You do obviously take a moment to credit people where credit's due, but I've noticed that you obviously take a lot of time to support other boss women, I would say, on your profile. Where
Other
you can.
leaders.
Well, other leaders, boss women, you know, whatever that caption really sits.
Sure.
You get what I'm saying.
I'm just messing with you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. How have you, you're ruining, it's not on the script, right? No. How have you really managed, or how do you use your platform to promote, you know, gender equality and inspire other women?
I don't know if I have any intention with what I post. I just post when I feel like it.
Yeah.
You know, I
but not even your
express
platform.
myself.
Not even your platform. I'm more so like, you know,
in my life?
In your life, because I know you'll attend things and you'll support other people. It doesn't necessarily mean to be social.
Yeah, as much as I can, you know. And in the beginning, I had this vision that, Curveball, I'm only going to hire women, you know, just to get women up there.
Yeah,
but then I realized that was very hard. And also it's not fair, you know. So I realized that if I really want to be fair on women, I should hire the best there is, whether that's a woman or a man. Like, I don't need them to, you know, get any allowances to come in. Now my team is majority women.
Yes.
Absolutely. But I think for me, the biggest thing is to offer flexibility, especially to mothers. We have very flexible working hours in the office anyways, but I just think it's so important to be able to be supportive, you know. The world is not going to end if someone goes and picks up their kids, but that's like an important thing in a kid's life, right? So I would love to, if my team wants to do that flexibility is there, that you can go to the hobbies of your kids, you know, but in exchange, like my team also happily jump on a call with me or do something with me at like 9 p.m., 8 p.m. It doesn't matter. Like, it's a give and take.
Yeah.
And in that sense, I think I maybe offer more, like working with me offers a lot more to women or to a parent than maybe someone who's just in a couple, you know?
Yeah, makes sense.
So that is my way, I think, of trying to promote women. I always connect people with each other if I can. Like, I am surrounded with phenomenal women. Like, they are very successful, but aside from that, they're also amazing. You know, they're funny, they're caring, they operate from kindness, which I think is like immensely important.
The amount in this city of successful women is through the roof.
And most of them are quiet as well. Yeah. Like, a lot of them, they don't self-promote, they don't brag about their results. Like, they're not out there, they're not on panels, etc. Like, there's a lot of them that are just grinding, hustling, and I respect both ways, you know, like...
I'm not trying to draw the women versus men conversation. No. I just think for a lot of people...
it's the same with men. There's a lot of men who don't.
Of course. It's like it's just for listeners more so outside of the region who still see this part of the world as like, like women are somewhat suppressed and it's male dominant. Not. Dubai has totally changed. And Karin's like the perfect example of somebody that's shaped her business over some of the most evolving years of this city. And
might I add, like I deal with a lot of clients, a lot. Predominantly the decision makers, the marketing managers, etc., are women. Yeah. So for me, like especially our industry, the men are not like as dominating at all. It's mostly women that I deal with. So for me, I don't see any difference at all. On the contrary, I feel like women are in very successful positions, very strong as well.
What on that point then? What advice do you have for inspiring? I had talent managers, but I'm going to take it away and change it to aspiring women who are looking to start their business in a quote unquote male dominated city. What would be your advice? You know, and that might be simple as it's not even relevant. There's no competition.
There's always going to be competition. And especially if you want to have a family, you know, it's easy for me to outwork anyone, man or woman, if I don't have kids, but it's different when I have kids. The priorities are totally different. Yeah. But I think for anyone who wants to start something, get a mentor, you know, get to know people in your industry. There's so many people that want to help, you know, like that want to give you insight and show them how it's done. Like I would just latch on to people. If I could do an internship with someone to learn, I would, you know. Yeah. And then I think also, like, we're living in a very, very lucky time, you know. Like, there's very few things you cannot learn through YouTube, That's right. You know, Google. So you can get very far. You can Google so many things, and you can basically have brand identity, logo, website, all your content, pricing. Like, you can do so much before you even have to start a company. So with all due respect, like getting a license is like the last thing you need to do just before you start.
Yeah.
But I think also it's important to emulate others. What you want to do, like unless you're doing something revolutionary and like totally new, which is rare, there will be someone who's done it before you. And if they don't want to help you, you can study them, emulate. There's McDonald's and there's Shake Shack, right? Like,
yeah. Which do you prefer?
McDonald's, please.
Yeah, you've got a bit of an issue with McDonald's. We need to probably have an intervention on air.
No. I tap dance between McDonald's and Zuma, and
When I
I'm
first
quite
met
happy
Karin,
there.
basically the conversation went like, I messaged you. No, we'd met once or twice, obviously, with Priti or at different events, at Kris's wedding as well.
Yeah.
I think I'd met you. And then it was kind of a bit of a like me going, hey, I think I saw a few stories of some of the questionable foods that you're eating, McDonald's, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, look, you probably need to, not for any other reason. It wasn't from a physical side, so don't take this the wrong way before I get slated here. But it was more from the perspective of
cholesterol.
Let's fuel your body correctly.
Life length.
And work on your longevity. And we've been working together now 5 months, haven't we?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to plug myself, but Karin's
No, go ahead.
the most consistent person of 2023.
See?
Literally.
Yeah, but I also
12
have consistent
sessions
results.
every month for 5 months.
Yeah.
You don't get a medal for that, unfortunately. I don't have the budget.
I thought,
but that's impressive.
Yeah. No, I'm
You might
dedicated.
move
I'm
this-
dedicated.
You are very dedicated. And
I
I think that reflects obviously back towards obviously what you've done with your work.
Yeah.
This is a bit of a left field question, but I know you've got advice because you've given me advice on this area before. Not to say that I'm a celebrity, but the question is what advice would you give to aspiring celebrities or influencers looking to boost their profile status in the region? Just because you've worked with some of the most successful talents in the Middle East.
Emulate. Find someone who's already doing it. See how they're doing it. If they're putting 12 stories between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m., you do the same. Check how they do their content. Check how they edit their content. When do they post? What times? How are their captions done? Look how their brand endorsements are looking. And also, if you want to make money, don't emulate someone who's not doing paid campaigns.
Yeah.
You can learn anything.
Yeah.
Emulate.
Emulate.
Get inspired.
That is the magic touch. Emulate. As we draw to the more back end of today's podcast, obviously I wanted to kind of touch on how you manage all of this because you've got a work team and then you have a home team.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about your home team and how pivotal that is to allowing you to maximize your role as, a manager of a company, but also a mum of two girls.
It's everything. I couldn't do anything of what I do without my office team and my home team, like straight up. I couldn't.
You can shout out your home team now if you want.
No, I love them.
What does that look like for you? Because again, I've got a lot of listeners outside of Dubai who might not really know what a home team is.
Yeah, so I have at home, I have a housekeeper and a nanny.
Yes.
And I have a driver. The driver I have because I don't drive. So
yeah, why don't you drive?
I am very busy and I don't feel the need to drive.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Do you think, honestly, on that point,
yeah,
you obviously get to spend a lot of time following up on emails, calls, messages from the safety of a back seat rather than behind the wheel.
Yeah.
And you're not navigating the crazy traffic of Dubai. Do you think that's like a great way to maximize your time and your efficiency?
Fantastic way. Like sometimes I do conference calls and also the amount of meetings I can do, I don't have to think about anything. But more importantly than that, I also get some time to, if I just want to sit and listen to good music and look out the window and take a breather and just reset myself, I have that opportunity. And, not to sound like a spoiled brat as well, but it's a company driver. He does other things for me, he collects things, he helps out, he's assisting us in many of the things that we do. So it's not, everyone has a purpose.
Yeah, you said this to me once, that people should have multiple roles.
Yeah.
Or multiple.
And people should be allowed to grow, Of course they should.
Yeah.
I still have the very first team member that joined Curveball was Jonna, and she's still with us.
Okay. And
she's still
been
with
able
us.
to upskill her different skills and.
Yeah, she went from she was a promoter, and just as I was at the final stage of my pregnancy, I asked her to join. So she was my first full-timer. Before that, I had just like accounting. I don't count those because they're like outsourced.
Yes.
And in talents, but she joined on, she didn't even know how to use PowerPoint or a laptop. And she told me up front, but I just loved her work ethic. And she jumped on, and she's still with me. You know.
Amazing.
She had a pregnancy, went home to Philippines for a year, and then she came back, worked with us, grew to become an office manager. She was like, she's the gatekeeper, man. Like she will be like, if someone wants $5 for parking, she'll come like, Karin, are we sure we should do this? You know, like she's so loyal to the company. It's insane, you know, and I love it. And you know, when pandemic came, she moved to Philippines for a while, and now she's coming back. So like, you know, and that's a long stint for a company.
Yeah, I do feel like from the outside looking in, you've got a lot of respect, and like your team obviously love to work for you in the company. That's a game changer, right? A lot of people make the mistake of like being a dictator and putting people under the thumb to work for them. Do you think that there's a fine line?
I don't think I'm an expert at this. I just know what has worked for me.
Yeah.
I think in the end, when you hire someone, it's not a reflection of them. If it doesn't work out, it just meant that them and their role wasn't compatible, right?
Yeah.
So it's nothing personal. I think I really struggled before with firing someone or letting someone go. But then I realized that you have to do that because they have the right to grow. And if they're not in the right position with you, they're going to get frustrated. You're going to get frustrated. And they're missing out on using their potential. So anyone that doesn't fit in the team, you have an obligation to set them free in a way, you know, to let them find somewhere where they can get praise, where they can feel good doing a good job. So it's absolutely nothing personal. And I think, of course, I've had a lot of turnover, but that's just because I was also learning how to hire, you know, and I would, in the beginning, going back to that thing about like, I think I want to do it my way, you know, I would hire people based on personality, and some of them were amazing, but that ended up with a huge load on me to train them. You know, until I hired someone, and I did this like, okay, can you put together a presentation, a costing for this imaginary scenario? And he came back after a full day and presented to me, and I was like, wow, okay, right. We're not hiring someone I need to train anymore. We're hiring people that are better than me. Yeah. So like there was a shift. But I think we have a lot of fun in the office, so that helps.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most important thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Creating a enjoyable, happy workplace, which would obviously be, you know, pivotal when it comes to creating that environment as far as health and wellness is concerned.
Yeah. What
role would you say health, wellness, and fitness play in your life? Let's say before me, and then now with training. I'm not, again, not to blow me up, but like.
No, but you have. Like, to be fair, you have made a difference.
Fitness now.
No, absolutely not.
I don't want to just take credit for that. What have you done in the past that's helped you get your mind in the right way? Because you have a hobby that's pretty cool.
Do I?
Yeah.
The horse riding?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, most people don't ride like.
I feel like that's pretty plain vanilla, but okay.
No, I mean, a lot of people, like, that's something that you've worked on. So
yeah, this is true. This is true. But okay, so to go back, fitness before, I haven't been regularly active, you know, and I've never considered myself sporty. Even when I was young, I would just do whatever I could to get out of, like, you know, anything sporty. Like, I wasn't very good at it as well. Like, I've never been good at football or handball. So I didn't like it. It scared me, you know. My parents weren't very sporty as well. But then I have really good metabolism. So I got away with probably being like skinny fat. You know, I looked skinny on the outside, but probably my cholesterol and everything was off the charts, to be fair. But that meant that I didn't have the need to. So whenever I would gain a bit of weight, you know, every 2 years or so, I would just exercise for 6 months, either go to the gym or hire someone and, you know, rollerblade a bit until I reached a reasonable level. And then I would just continue like that. Yeah. But I think the difference now is that I felt that it was, I need to be a better example for my kids. I want them to feel active. You know, after I started horse riding and everything, I realized that I like this. It does something to my mind. It resets me, stress levels, you know. So when I started training with you, it was more to have long term. if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't want to have, like, it's not about results or getting into a certain size. It's about just making healthier choices, becoming stronger, and also just mentally, it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
So it's a totally different thing now, very different. And I see the difference in my kids as well. I couldn't run before. Now I can run, as you know, which is like my new
You've
thing.
totally adopted that.
Yeah.
That side of things, haven't you?
I love it.
It clears your head, right?
Yeah. No, it's amazing. And I think it's just important. I would love for my kids to feel like they're sporty, and not have the same as me, because it's a game changer. And in business, you struggle with a lot of same things. Like you get tired or you don't want to do it. You wake up and you don't want to go. Like it's the exact same thing with business. The exact same thing. Like you have to sometimes sacrifice short-term happiness for long-term gain, like.
Do you think it conditions you for the
many
world
parallels
that's outside of the gym as well?
Many parallels. So that is a gift I would like to give my kids.
Yeah, that's a good one, because that's definitely the message I try to get across to people. It's like, it's not just as shallow.
I still want to be very skinny, Jason.
Yeah, of course.
So
people want to have their physical,
yeah.
Their looks. But where the magic happens is when people realize how powerful it is on your mind and what it unlocks outside of the gym.
Yeah.
Of course, the byproduct eventually will be your body will change in a certain way and you'll probably look better and feel more confident.
Yeah.
It's hard work to just focus on that. But if you can hyper focus on how good you feel after a session and then how driven and powerful you feel going out into your job. So in your case, you like get into the office. I'm sure your vibe is like on point, potentially after having just de-stressed or gotten things out of the way at the gym or trained, opposed to potentially rolling out of bed, not having released those endorphins and then rolling into the office.
Sure.
Sets
Huge
a different
difference.
tone, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That leads me to the Lifestyle Hub golden question. What do you think is key to living a happy and fulfilling life?
Laughing a lot.
Laughing a lot.
Laughing a
Yeah,
lot.
no one's had that. That's a good one.
Positive outlook.
How do you laugh a lot? What makes you laugh?
You can either, firstly, there's so many fun things that happen if you choose to see the fun in it, And I think even with bad things that happen, like if you give enough space and time, you can turn that into a funny story. So I think even misery can be something that spreads joy. I think it's super important to laugh, to joke around, to not take things seriously. I think it's important to be grateful, very, very grateful. And I think it's important as well to remember, the way I look at it at least, is that, a lot of people feel like anyone that comes into your life or a situation that happens, it's like that it has to add value for you, that a person comes into your life and it makes it better. And when it doesn't, we get caught up and we get very upset about it. We get angry, frustrated. But I think if you can kind of step out of that and remember that it's not always that person's job to make your life better. Sometimes you are the thing that makes another person's life better. If you can appreciate that, you're going to be a lot more calm and stable. I just think if you can kind of find that just steadiness and try to not get provoked and just laugh things off, I think that's what makes a happy life.
Love it. Yeah. That was deep. That was good. No, that was great. Like, honestly, I think you definitely give the impression that you're quite serious from the outside looking in. I'm going to say it because I'm sure
I'm just antisocial. Like, if I don't have to talk to
someone,
I don't...
Because you have a game face that people think you're, like, very serious. Obviously, I've got to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, I don't think I'm very approachable, but that's just, I'm very friendly. I'm very nice, but...
Do you think that's
I don't walk around smiling at people. Like,
time conscious? Like, you've got places to be?
Yeah, I'm always busy. I have things to do. I have my priorities are really strict. I know exactly what I want to do. And I've always been someone who enjoys doing a lot of things alone. If you want to tag along, feel free. But I'm never like, hey, do you want to go and do that? And then if they don't, I don't go. Like, I go. If you want to come along, fine. Yeah. So, yeah, no.
But moral of the story, guys, laugh more. Find ways to laugh.
Yeah.
Where can people find a little bit more of you and the work that you do? I know it's not,
I don't market much what I do.
You don't market in that sense, right? But like, let's say they want to keep up with you on socials. You have your Instagram. Is that on private?
No, it's open.
It's open.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where can they who can you plug right now then if it's not going to be you that they can follow? You've got three
What
big
do you
ones.
mean? What do
Well,
you
this
mean?
is the part where people, okay, so if you've not been on a podcast before, at this point, this is where I say to you, here's some
No.
free marketing of where people can like find you, find something you do. You have a side business. Maybe this actually perfect time to talk about
Canvas.
Canvas briefly.
Yeah,
Tell us
Canvas
about
is
that
cool.
really quick.
It was something I created because of the pandemic. Obviously, Curveball went like nosediving. And I felt I was so limited in trying to recover what I could do at that point. So I felt the need to create and do something. So I started Canvas, which is suits for women, but classic ones. It's the same model throughout, nothing fashionable, just elegant, timeless, but in all the colors you want, etc., etc. Functional, empowering, So that's a side one, and that's at Canvas AE. But yeah, I mean, we don't post much on Curveball either, and it's just because we are busy with what we do, we hustle, and also most of our clients are long-term when it comes to events. So I really have no reason to showcase them and how many events we do for them. For instance, I would only get active if I need more clients. But since we're long-term, we're pretty lucky in the sense that we are usually full.
Amazing. So Canvas
AE or Curveball Events and Talents.
or Curveball Events Talents. When am I going to join the talent list?
How many followers do you have, Jason?
Oh, yeah.
Actually.
Might be a little while off. Anyway, well, we'll end on that note. Today was honestly amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You've been resistant to this slightly because I don't think you give yourself credit where it's due sometimes. Especially when I've known you on a bit more of a personal level in the gym where you kind of break down a few more barriers than what you might be with people outside. I think you didn't give yourself credit potentially where it's due. And I think that's why I really wanted to get you on today because there are a lot of inspiring points. So thank you so much. I know a lot of people would definitely have got some value from today.
Thank you. This was fun.
So thank you, Karin, for coming on the show today. Guys, that was an amazing episode today. Please, as always, take a moment to subscribe, follow the podcast, share. Any comments or any suggestions or any questions that you may have, please pop them in the comments below. Please make sure you subscribe so that you can be notified when the new episodes are released. That's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining me, Jason Grimmer, on the Lifestyle Hub podcast. I'll catch you later.